All right, just finished this book, Alexander the Great by Philip Freeman, and it's a biography about the great Macedonian king Alexander the Great. It's a pretty good book, actually, if you want to give it a read. For a history book, it's not very boring. It's actually very interesting. It reads kind of like a story, which is always good to see in a history book, especially because sometimes it can get a little dry. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is I'm going to try to make a sort of time capsule or video capsule of some of the lessons I drew from Alexander the Great. And maybe some of you out there watching can do the same. And if you have any stories or lessons that maybe I missed or you don't agree with me, leave it down in the comments below and I'll make sure to respond. But the first lesson that I got from Alexander the Great was to make sure to always have high ambitions, right? A lot of times in life, a lot of us don't have exactly, our ambitions are kind of low. And we've all heard the saying, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you land among the stars. And there's a lot of truth to that saying. And it is that when we have big goals, right? For Alexander the Great, it was to conquer the whole world. We gotta take massive action, as Grant Cardone would say. We gotta take big moves to get these big goals. And if our goals are never that big, we're never gonna be forced to make these big moves. Now, even if we don't accomplish these huge, ambitious goals, we will still accomplish more than had we not set these big goals in the first place, right? So if Alexander the Great said he only wanted to conquer one country rather than the whole world, which is just crazy to even think about, but had he said he only wanted to capture one country, he might have only done one country and then called it good. He accomplished his goal. Now, Alexander the Great obviously didn't conquer the whole world, but he conquered most of it. And that's in large part due to him having such a high level of ambition and a huge goal to work towards that it allowed him to achieve such a great amount. And we can apply this in our lives as well by very simply having a bigger goal. So if your goal is to lose 10 pounds, make it instead to lose 20 pounds, or maybe even better to get in the perfect physical shape, however you deem that is. Make sure it's realistic as well. In terms of wealth, if your goal is to make $100,000 a year, pretty respectable, you could always times it by 10, right? Make it $1 million a year. And even if you don't achieve $1 million a year, you might be able to achieve 150,000 or 300,000, and you'll still be better off than had you only had the goal of achieving $100,000 a year. Another lesson I got from Alexander the Great was he had extreme focus on what he wanted, right? And as we said before, his goal was to conquer the world. He had an extreme focus on accomplishing this. From age, I think it was 20 to 31 or 32, about 10 to 12 years, 10 to 13 years, he was at war every day, planning, marching, moving, fighting. He was doing what he needed to do to get his goal. And what we take from that is that a lot of times in our lives, or at least mine, I don't know, you might be better, you might be worse than me, but we'll move towards a goal, then we'll kind of pitter off, do a little bit of something else, then go back towards the goal, then go the other way, towards the goal the other way. And we're not focused enough on the goal to actually achieve it. There's a Russian proverb, I believe it's a Russian proverb, that says, the man who chases two rabbits catches none. Right? And so the same principles applying here. When we're not focused enough on exactly what we need to do and what we want, we end up going in every direction, and that leads us nowhere, right? We need to choose one direction to go and go there, because when you want to go everywhere, you're going to go a little bit up, you're going to go a little bit down, go side, side, side. It's just going to go in a circle, and you're going to end up right in the middle, back where you started. The next thing that I saw Alexander the Great had is you gotta love the grind of life, right? You gotta love the work. You gotta love whatever the journey is, right? So while Alexander had the goal of conquering the world, or he never explicitly said conquer the world, but to conquer what seemed in his mind as everything, he loved going to war. Right. He didn't find going to war intensely displeasurable, at least from what we can draw from his actions. Right. The only reason why he actually ended up stopping his conquest right before he died was because his morale in his military was giving up on him. Right? They didn't want to go any longer. They've been going for about a decade now, and Alexander the Great saying we got to go another 300 miles, and you got to keep in mind back in that time that means you got to walk 300 miles, which with armor and swords and spears, and you got to keep all your food with you. It would just be intensely a difficult thing to do. But Alexander he wanted to keep going. He would be on the front lines of battle. He'd always be in the fights. He loved what he was doing, and he wanted to do it every day. And the only reason why he stopped was because other people kind of forced him to stop. Now, how do we apply this to our life is when we choose our goal, we got to make sure we choose the right goal, right? Some people don't choose a goal. That's obviously not the greatest thing, but some people choose a goal, but they choose the wrong goal. And that's one thing in life that you don't want to have happen to you. At least I've heard, is that you choose the wrong goal and you waste your life, basically. Now, having no goal is, like no action still an action, no goal is still a goal, and that is definitely the wrong goal as well. But what were we talking about? We have to love what we do. Right, so you have to love the grind. So when you choose your goal, make sure that you choose a goal that you don't only want to achieve, but you love the journey towards the goal, because that, in essence, is life, right? Life is work. Life is the stuff in between here and the goal. And the goal at the end it's good when you get it, but it's over. It's kind of like when you watch a really good TV show, or if you ever played a really good video game, you're really compelled and drawn into the story, and then the story's over. You finish all the seasons, right? This happened to me when I watched The Office. I finished all of The Office, 9 seasons, I think it is, or 10 seasons. Finished it all, and then it was over, and you kind of feel a little empty, right? You're done. You're done. You loved watching it. You loved working. But after it's done, and you're kind of left a little directionless. The same thing can be applied to our goals in life, right? We want to choose goals that not only do we want to achieve, right? I wanted to get to the end of The Office. You might have wanted to watch to the end of the movie. Alexander wanted to conquer the world, but he also enjoyed fighting off every single city that came upon him that challenged him, right? You also got to enjoy doing the work that's necessary to get towards your goal, whether it's learning, reading, coding, like Bill Gates maybe, doing some design on cars, maybe building spaceships, whatever it is. You gotta love the journey and not only the destination. The next thing that Alexander the Great had was he wasn't only a military general, right? He actually had a very high understanding of human psychology and persuasion. And this is largely, I believe, because he was tutored by Aristotle, but this is something that actually applies to a lot of our lives too, because if you want to get anything great done, you need help from other people, right? There's a saying that goes, no man is an island, no woman is an island if you prefer that one, but no one's an island. And if you look at all great people, Alexander included, nobody's really achieving these great, or they're not really, these great goals unless they have a team surrounded with them, right? I can't think of anybody that's majorly successful right now that doesn't have a team with them, right? For example, we'll go through a couple, right? Michael Phelps, he has medical staff, he has trainers, he has nutritionists. They all tell him what to do. They all help him out. They're all working together to make him the great Olympian he was. Not anymore. I think he retired. Bill Gates, right? He had Paul, and I think his name is, and then he had Steve Ballmer after he retired. And he had a huge team of employees working with him to make the mega corporation that is Microsoft. Who's somebody else that's great? Warren Buffett, right? One of the greatest investors to ever live. He has Charlie Munger. He has his secretary. I don't know her name, but he always talks very highly of her, right? None of these people are really alone. They're always working with other people. And of course there are exceptions, but the rule is that they have a team working with them, and you gotta be able to and how this relates to human psychology and human persuasion is you got to be able to sell them on the dream and work with other people. Okay, in the book for Alexander the Great, his army a lot of times they would lose morale, and they didn't want to keep going, and he kept them motivated. He kept them going. He kept them directed towards the goal, which was to conquer all of the whole world. He did this in many ways, mostly from giving speeches. He would play to the fantasies. Sometimes he would lie. I don't recommend lying, but I do recommend getting the ability to speak in crowds. I try to work on this myself. I know I'm not the greatest at it, but it seems like if we could all have this ability, we would be more successful in life. That's mostly what I got from this book. I know I didn't do a great job of explaining all of it, but this is not only for you, it's for me. It's to help me become better at speaking and to hopefully remember some of the lessons from this book. If you have any questions, please just leave a comment down below. Or if you have any different opinions on what or different lessons you could take from Alexander the Great, yeah, leave that below as well. I'd love to see what you have to say. And as always, have a good day.